Good evening. We're back with more Lord of the Rings LCG, and tonight is The Ring Goes South on Nightmare difficulty. This quest does punish ally swarm decks. We're going to play one anyway, and we'll just take the pain. So for the setup, we get a blank turn in this one, or at least a blank planning phase, with some extra help representing the Council of Elrond. And we've got Steward of Gondor, which is good. So the extra resources here will allow for the 2 Ethir Swordsmen. And probably the Hunter of Lamedon as well. Envoy of Pelargir, Hunter of Lamedon. And we're going to play a very good tail. And that's actually a hard decision between Faramir and Ethir Swordsman and another Knight of the Swan, or the first Knight of the Swan, but I choose the latter. And now we do the Council of Elrond. So one of these cards gets played for free. One goes to the hand, one goes back to the deck, and one goes to the discard pile. So I choose Forlong to be played for free. Knight of the Swan goes back in the deck, extra Forlong to the discard pile, and Captain's Wisdom. So we move on and we get Red Horn Pass, and for the encounter card we get a blank Doomed 1, and we get a location. So that's pretty mild. That's a good start. Now at this point I should have shuffled Lust for the Ring into the deck, or taken 5 threat, and I would have shuffled Lust for the Ring into the deck, and I remedy this later. It wouldn't make any difference. Lust for the Ring could have come on the very first card, and it wouldn't have made any difference in the game. So we make 1 progress here. We're forced to move to a location every round if there's one available. These locations have a mechanic where they can take damage, and if they do, they have different effects that go off when they're explored. So that can affect which order you want to explore the locations in. And the effects can really stack up. This encounter deck tries to put a lot of threat on you, which is thematic for this point in the movies or the books. So we get a very good tail, and we've already got 3 Ethir Swordsmen out. So this is a very strong start. And 3 Knights of the Swan. Very, very strong start. But I'm just going to quest mildly here. So this is how this deck punishes allies. Bitter Swarm, you either have to discard all allies or take 1 threat per ally. So that's 11 threat I take in one go. Pretty bad. We clear the active location, move on to the secondary, and that's going to accelerate my plans. I don't want to hang around too much in phase 1 anymore, but I do draw Faramir here with another Warrior of Lossarnach, so I'm ready to go. We can move on here. Got a very good setup, so we'll go ahead and quest to move on with 15. And it's 3 damage on the active location, which is going to translate into 3 threat when this is explored. Unfortunate, so we're up to 43 threat. Moving on to phase 2. Gotta go find the Great Chief Warg. And if a location enters play or an enemy engages, I have to put a damage on active location. I put a damage on locations as they come in. I had to go discard to find a Warg because of the text of the Great Warg Chief. And I had to discard my Steward of Gondor as a result of the Shadow card. In this case, Forlong and Hirluin take the attacks, and I have plenty of attack power to take care of both of these enemies, which I will do. So, given we're at 44 threat, be trying to move on through phase 2 in one go here. Get a new copy of Steward of Gondor. And it can get a few more allies out. And just hope that second copy of Bitter Cold doesn't come, because if it does, I will just lose. So, just gonna quest for 20 here. And it's placed 3 damage on the active location. There is none. So we're through phase 3 uneventfully and on to phase 4. Gotta make Doors of Durin active. Watcher in the Water to the staging area. It's at this point that I realized Lust for the Ring. I forgot to shuffle it into the deck. So I decided to rectify the situation by just putting it out now, pretending that it came out. That's the worst case scenario. And it wouldn't really have any effect on the game. It could go on Denethor. It has an effect if the One Ring is exhausted. The One Ring hasn't been exhausted this game. So, no effect on the game, whether it comes out or not. So I decided to resolve just the worst case scenario in order to resolve this mistake. And have to have Frodo get captured by the Watcher in the Water and his resources discarded. Can't make progress on the Doors of Durin until we get 6 damage on the Watcher in the Water. Also, as per Nightmare mode, we get 1 tentacle, which has to be dealt with before I can damage the Watcher. And if the tentacle kills an ally or a character, it goes back to the staging area, and that makes it a lot harder to damage. So, if it successfully kills a character here, it's going to delay the victory by 1 turn. And given that I'm at 44 threat, that can be a very big deal. The Watcher is considered engaged with the players. It's going to attack one of my chump blockers here. And it's going to get an additional attack after that one. And there goes my second Steward of Gondor. And now the tentacle, it could go on Forlong or Hirluin. Hirluin has 1 more HP than Forlong, so that's who I eventually decide on. If a shadow card of +1 is just fine, a shadow card of +2 will kill Hirluin. And unfortunately, it is a +2 if the character was engaged this round. When that is unfortunate. Normally when an enemy engages me, I put a damage on the active location. In this case, though, that enemy engaged prior to the quest card flipping, I believe. Let me check on that. No, actually there should have been 1 damage on Doors of Durin at this point. If you get up to 9 damage on Doors of Durin, you lose the game. We're not going to get anywhere near that, though, but there should be 1 damage on Doors of Durin right now. And unfortunately, with Hirluin being dead, that's going to severely handicap what I can play at this point. And as the tentacle did kill Hirluin, it was then returned to the staging area, and I couldn't attack it, and therefore couldn't attack the Watcher in the Water, even though I am engaged with it. Here I'm just questing not to take damage, and I do get another tentacle. So really going to need some luck here to win. There's only a couple of characters who can take an attack from one of these tentacles and not die, and so I basically need no shadow card buffs to come. And I take 2 threat from the Watcher in the Water's attack, so really running into it now. So 5 attack to 3. The shadow card doesn't do anything, so Forlong survives. And now I need another blank shadow card, basically, and I get it. And Denethor survives as well. So I'm alive. And now I can return damage, kill the tentacles. A shadow card of +1 there, and I probably would have lost this game on either of the tentacles if there was a shadow card of 1. And here I need 11 damage to free Frodo. The Watcher is indestructible, so there's no point putting more damage on him. So that will free Frodo, and that means next round I can place progress on Doors of Durin. Doors of Durin should have 3 damage on it at the moment. Nothing serious. And when we move on to the next round, just need 9 progress on the Doors of Durin. Man, I could play a couple of junk blockers. And then just go ahead and quest for enough to clear the Doors of Durin. And that will end the game. Unless a bitter cold comes or something like that, in which case I will lose. So I realize at this point Doors of Durin should have, I think it's 2, but it actually should be 3 in hindsight. But no problem, you can go up to 8 and not lose. If you get 9, you lose. But as the game will be over this round, no problem. So it's a Hunting Hawk. That's a pretty nasty card if it comes early that punishes ally swarms. So this encounter deck tries to punish ally swarm with both Hunting Hawk and Bitter Cold, and those can be a big deal, but in this case neither of them came, and it ended up being a fairly quick victory with the Outland Swarm. I don't know that you get a necessarily high win rate with the Outland Swarm against this particular quest, which does punish ally swarms. Often Outlands is so powerful that it overcomes anti-ally swarm decks. This one and Mount Doom I used this against as well. Well, there's more of the encounter deck. Well, you just have to get lucky and not have the anti-ally swarm cards come when you're playing against this deck, if you choose to play an ally swarm deck against it. So anyway, thanks for watching.